this would probably be good to review. But before I get to this one, I should probably review these two first. Hello my friends and welcome to the Revival of Anime and Games. It is the Asian Zone. Well, 2014 is behind us, but I bet there are still those game titles out there that just kind of passed us by, aren't there? Personally, I like to go down to my local GameStop and pick up a few of those forgotten gems. Interestingly enough, I usually learn about them through some less traditional sources. Mostly my doujinshi. Yep, I've said in the past how much I love Akihabara and its many doujinshi shops, and this is one of the main reasons why. They often introduce me to great new series whenever I see them on display at their stores, be it Fate, Vocaloid, Higurashi. I originally learned about them when I entered Toranaona for the first time. Today's review subject is one that actually caught my attention when I saw the mascot for it. My friends, meet Monokuma. Just look at this guy, he's white on one side, black on the other. One side looks like a happy little teddy bear. The other side looks like Saitot's personal plushie. He's basically Deaf the Kid's worst nightmare. And yet when I saw this at an anime store, I just really wanted to buy him. Because I've always had a thing for bears, and this bear looks pretty damn awesome when you look at him. So I bought him, didn't bother to look into what anime he came from, or in this case he originally came from a video game, but I didn't care. I just bought him, brought him home to the States, didn't look that much further into it. And then come a few months later, and I see him on the cover of this little number at my local GameStop. My friends, this is Danganronpa Trigger Happy Havoc for the PlayStation Vita. Originally, I did want to do a review of this game after I finished reviewing the Super Robot Tyson Z2 games, but those took a little longer than I expected, and pretty soon I had to start my job at City Hall. I also thought people already knew about it after I learned it was mostly localized because there were a bunch of Let's Plays of it on YouTube that gave it a cult following. Heck, Funimation even licensed an anime version of this game, so I figured no one needed to hear my opinion. But then I saw the anime, and oh boy does it not do this game any justice. It wasn't terrible, but it didn't change enough that it could justify any reason to watch it over playing the actual game. That and the animation was pretty inconsistent. Also, looking at sales on VG charts, it certainly doesn't look like it's sold right. So, I figured I may as well also throw in my 2 cents about this little computer chip looking thing. I never got why Sony decided to design the PlayStation cartridges like this. Let's start off with premise, I guess. Danganronpa is the story of a group of unusually dressed high school students trapped in their school, Hope's Peak Academy. The windows and doors are all bolted shut, and the only way out is behind the giant security door. As it turns out, the one who had trapped them in there was their supposed headmaster, the aforementioned Monokuma. Despite one half of him looking like a good bear, he is 100% a sadistic SOB who issues a challenge to his students. Try to commit the perfect murder by killing off one of their own and not be found out. If the other students can't determine who the killer is, then the killer can leave the school while the remaining students are executed. If the killer is discovered, they will be instead executed and the killing game will continue for the remaining students. So yeah, the best way to sum up Danganronpa is a game with a bunch of Persona-style characters competing in a battle royale with Phoenix Wright S trials, while being manipulated by an evil Looney Tunes character. If not at least one part of that statement got your attention, then please stop the video because we have nothing else to discuss. Interestingly enough, along with having trials like the Phoenix Wright games, the localization of this game series also shared a lot of parallels with the Phoenix Wright games. Both games started off on older generation consoles before getting updated ports on the newer systems. With the Phoenix Wright games, it was the Game Boy Advance, and with this series that's currently on the PlayStation Vita, they were originally on the PlayStation Portable. As a result, both Phoenix Wright and this game aren't exactly up to par with their respective systems. But that doesn't bother me all that much, for two reasons. First, unlike my last review of the Jigoku-hen, this game was meant to be a direct port of the PSP version. They were re-releasing it for the audience who missed it on the previous version, and even added in some new features for those who had already played it. It's not like it was a direct sequel that should have seen improvements instead of remaining stagnant with their graphics. Secondly, even for something that's mostly a direct port of a PSP game, it still looks pretty good. My biggest problem with the Jigoku-hen's graphics were its battle animations. They all just looked so flat and lacked any real style or pizzazz. Here though, quite literally they embraced the idea of being flat by having the character sprites look like cardboard cutouts. That's both kind of hilarious and unique in its own way, especially in the Clash Trials when they remain in the last pose they were in, no matter how awkward it looks. It's as if to say these characters are all cutouts of popular Japanese trends and subcultures, which they kind of are at first, but we'll discuss that more when we get into character analysis. I especially love the style when it's applied to the cutscenes. It looks like something out of Madoka Magica in terms of insane creativity. On top of that, they're able to get away with some really brutal scenes, but yet they played up so bizarrely that I'm not sure if I should count it as gore, but still say it looks violent, but oh wow. Either way though, I love it. All that said, I wish the school setting looked as unique as the characters because these hallways look pretty damn flat and empty. Still, the designs of the characters are great, each one having their own unique appearance befitting their character's traits. Yeah, I may have mocked their Persona-esque fashion, but truth is I love that sort of style. Though I was never a big fan of the whole patch de guerre look from Persona 4, which thankfully is not present here. My god, do I love this soundtrack in this game. I mean, I'm no expert on music, but I really enjoy the main theme's sort of hip-hop beat that perfectly matches the game's murder mystery vibe. In fact, a lot of the music here perfectly matches the mood of the game, from some calming tunes that let you enjoy everyday life, to more exciting themes when the mysteries are winding down, which then often lead into more somber themes that wake you up to the fact that you're about to say goodbye to someone. It's a simple yet really well-made soundtrack that doesn't have any huge fanfare behind it because it doesn't need it. It's just unique and awesome in its own right. Moving on to voice acting, I gotta say, for both the Japanese and English tracks, they pulled it off pretty well. Now, you gonna have to indulge me for a minute because I am a bit of a voice acting snob, so I gotta talk about this in a lot of detail. But yeah. The Japanese voice acting, I gotta say, wow, they did a great job. They got a lot of really star-studded actors as well as some new upcoming talents, and they really fit well. I've actually heard that in the early production notes, they actually listed down specific voice actors they wanted to do for certain characters. I'm not sure how many they did for, but I'm willing to bet they did for quite a handful of them. First off, we've got a lot of Persona 3 and 4 alumni, as well as a couple from Evangelion that will probably get a lot of yaoi fangirls screaming. Interestingly enough, even though Makoto Nagi is played with the exact same voice and tone as Shinji Ikari, he seems to be his exact opposite. Again, I'll get more into it during the characters discussion, but I will say this. Ogata-san as Makoto was a brilliant choice. As the rebuild movies and Super Robot Tyson games have shown us, she can still pull off that teenage angsty voice really well, and has one hell of a singing voice on top of that. For the Japanese, one of the more notable choices they made was Nobuyu Oyama as Monokuma. Oyama is the current voice actor for the legendary Doraemon. For those who don't know, Doraemon is one of Japan's most popular kids anime characters, going all the way back to the 1970s. So imagine someone like, say, Mickey Mouse turning into a psychotic villain and you've got the voice of Monokuma. So while I did prefer the Japanese dub, I also did think the English dub was also well done. While most of the actors are still fairly new to the industry, they pull off their roles pretty well. With the possible exception of Hiro, who sounds way too old for the role.
I'm Yasuhiro Hagakure. Hiro for short. Take it easy, yeah? I know I will.
Then again, looking at that hair, maybe he smoked a pipe one too many times and he ended up with that voice. Still, the standout performance in both languages for me is the English dub of Celestia.
Like a mouse!
No, not Sun, but the Gotholi. I love how throughout the game she constantly goes in and out of her fake French accent on purpose. Yeah, a bad actor would do that by accident. But it's clear, especially at the end of one chapter, that she's purposely going in and out of the accent on the fly until she completely drops it altogether. That takes serious talent! Mary Eve Harrington hasn't done much voice acting, but she definitely deserves a lot more roles. This, for me, is easily the best part of the game, and actually one of the main reasons why I want to talk about this game despite it being about a year old now. It's because I do want to do full-on analysis videos of some of these characters. For now though, I'll save the juicier stuff for those videos and just give you guys my first impressions of these characters. Despite having a rather large cast, most of the characters of Danganronpa are pretty darn memorable. You see, each of these characters were selected as students of the Academy because supposedly they best represent certain demographics or ideals, like the ultimate baseball player, the ultimate programmer, or even ultimate moral compass. How exactly do you determine that? Anyway, the only exception to this is, appropriately enough, the player character, Makoto Nagi, who literally won the lottery and got in as the ultimate lucky student. But even as the everyday guy, he does get some decent character development, and while he does have his Shinji moments of depression, he's always able to break out of it and comes off as likable through his surprising optimism despite the crap going on around him. Again, a stark contrast to somebody else. Every other Ultimate student is memorable because of their over-the-top personalities, or again, being the dream of every yaoi fangirl apparently. Seriously, I actually got a lot of looks when I broke this little guy out at con from the fangirls who all came up to me asking me where I got it from. Considering what this guy is like in the game, I wonder if the girls just like these kind of holier-than-thou condescending jerks who...
Say my name!
Yeah, maybe that was a stupid question. Yet, despite how some of these guys can act, they do go through decent character development, and I do end up liking a lot of them. Which is important in a game like this, because if the characters weren't memorable, then some of their deaths wouldn't hold that much impact. Oh yeah, this game that has blood, intense violence, strong language, and suggestive themes has characters dying in it, so spoilers. Or not. Though even the killers who you boss in this game really have memorable final moments. In fact, some of my favorite scenes in this game are the post-trial scenes where the killer is just about to be executed for their crime. To me, these moments are what sets this game series apart from the Phoenix Wright games, and in my opinion make them superior. Because unlike those games, I actually felt sorry when I sentenced these characters to their death. And don't get me wrong, I love the Phoenix Wright games. I've bought and completed all of the games in the main line. But to me, one of the biggest weaknesses in those games were the villains. While there were a few good ones, for the most part they were just over-the-top, unsympathetic assholes. I get that maybe they were designed to be unlikable scum, but that doesn't excuse the fact that it made the game rather unpleasant to play at times. I especially hated this one guy from the latest game. Let me just put it this way. Most disgusting, shitting grin ever. Here though, as the class trials begin to wind down, we really get to learn more about the killers and why they committed their crimes. By the end, even though they did kill another, you don't want to see any of them die, especially not by the hand, or in this case, paw of Monokuma. As I said, he is an incredibly sadistic little teddy bear. In fact, in each of the chapters, he's ultimately the catalyst that drives the characters to commit the murders. Really, I should hate how cartoonishly evil he is, especially after what I just said about the Phoenix Wright villains. But, at the same time, I have a soft spot for trolls like this guy and Kyubey. I don't know, I just love how they can manipulate people into doing their bidding by playing to base human desires and emotions. Plus, unlike Kyubey, this little plushie can actually kick some ass. So overall, this is a great cast of characters who you end up liking whether they're good or bad, and in future videos I'm going to gush about them even more. Admittedly, this is the part where you do see a lot of similarities with the Phoenix Wright games. You go around gathering clues for the trial, where you would mostly use them as a means of contradicting false testimonies. Though this game does have its own unique features. First of all, before the trial and investigation, you actually get to interact with all the characters, including possibly the victims. Yeah, this is a murder mystery simulator where you actually get to know the victims before their untimely passing. Again, this is something that makes this game a bit better than the Phoenix Wright series in my opinion, as I can only think of one murder victim in that series that we got to know before they died. Happened to me a few times throughout this game, and I did not sleep well as a result. Still, if you manage to become good friends with someone, you will be provided with a power-up that you can use during the trial. Said trials are a lot of fun too. Here, all the evidence you gather gets turned into what are called truth bullets, hence the trigger happy havoc part in the title. You use said bullets to literally fire at the passages in the testimony that contradict it. Unlike the Phoenix Wright series though, you gotta fire your bullets off in real time. If the person finishes their sentence and moves on to the next, then you gotta restart the conversation and try again. There's no back button like there is in Phoenix Wright. Now, that might not sound so bad, except for the fact that you're also on a time limit. Also, while the game starts you off with just a few bullets to choose from, as it progresses, it gives you more and more and you have to figure out which one will let you progress. And also you have to be careful as sometimes some weird pink words appear out of nowhere to get in the way of your bullets.
Too much pink energy is dangerous.
So it's actually a little more difficult than Phoenix Wright, and I like it for that. What I don't care for as much are some of the mini games during the trial. One is Hangman, where the answer is a key word for the case. The other is DDR, or some kind of rhythm game. Honestly, neither minigame is bad, but they do feel a little out of place and unnecessary as they do kind of kill off the pace of the game. The wrap-up minigame where you literally piece together the crime is easy, but the results are fun to watch. Now, the game does allow you to use both regular or touchscreen controls for all of these games. I tried the touchscreen and I ended up sticking with the regular controls for all of them except for the wrap-up minigame. Sorry Vita, you still can't beat the 3DS's touchscreen. Hey, look on the bright side. I think that your game is a lot more fun. I mean, I don't have anything against the Phoenix Wright games. I think they've done a lot of innovations over the years. But for the most part, I think your game actually has a lot better gameplay. I think this is a great game that deserves a tad bit more attention than what it's been getting. I mean, I think I've seen cosplays of it at conventions, but I gotta wonder if it's because of this game or because of the anime, which they unfortunately had to cut out a lot of stuff because they had to fit into a 13-episode anime series. Also, it unfortunately was on a system that hasn't sold the greatest. But I think it could certainly make a comeback if they make more games like this and improve their battery life, because when this thing starts to run low on battery, it becomes a serious bitch. On the positive side of things, the flat graphics here give the game a very unique and interesting feel, especially in the cutscenes and CG. It has an awesome soundtrack, the characters are all for the most part likable, and the gameplay is a refreshing take on puzzle and mystery games. On the flip side of that though, while the characters and cutscenes look great, the environments don't quite come up to par in terms of creativity. Some of the English voice actors are a tad flat, and in some cases don't sound the least bit like a high school student. And some of the minigames, while passable, feel out of place. Whether you're a fan of the Phoenix Wright games, adventure games, battle royale, or just want some good ideas for cosplay, I do highly recommend checking out this game, as there really is not much like it out there. I give it 4 button smashings out of 5. So, that was the first of the Danganronpa games, but we still got a sequel as well as another game that I got from a certain tree. But we'll save talking about these in the weeks to come. For now though, this is the Adman saying farewell for now from the
Low battery. Low battery. Low battery.
Oh shoot, the battery's low. Sorry guys, I gotta start charging this guy or else he's not gonna shut up.
Low battery.
Yeah. Roll the credits. I'll charge you, Jesus.